Good evening. I would like to call the business meeting of the Portland Board of Public Education to order. It is Tuesday, September 5th, 2017, and the Portland Board of Public Education is meeting at City Hall and Council Chambers. May I please ask the superintendent to call the roll?
Go. Sorry about that. Ms. Seeliger?
Here.
Ms. Vendel is absent. Ms. Davis?
Here.
Ms. Thompson?
Here.
Ms. Morioni?
Here.
Mr. Eder is not here. Mr. Rodriguez?
Presente.
Ms. Donato?
Here.
And Ms. Farah?
Here.
And Chair Trevorrow.
Here. And Ms. Vendel did ask me to report that she had a family emergency that has taken her out of state tonight. She is hoping to be with us via live stream this evening. So, and Mr. Eder also let me know he had another obligation tonight. Would everyone please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. For the report of the chair tonight, I had a couple of things to report out. And first, I wanted to actually turn it over to Ms. Morioni. We're making some changes regarding the student reps, and they came out of a meeting between Ms. Morioni, the student reps, and Mr. Rodriguez. So I'd like to ask Ms. Morioni to report on that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, board members. Board Member Rodriguez and I had been talking for quite a few months now about how our student representatives have been sitting in the back. They do get the once a month time to report on their schools, but we hadn't heard from them very much this year. And so we decided to talk with our superintendent, and he graciously agreed to take us all out to lunch. So we went to have lunch Bruno's, and the best part about it was we now are down to 2 representatives, and I'll explain to the public a little bit why. Our PATHS representative, Kevin Siegel, has graduated. He graduated from Deering High School in the spring, and he's off to college. And then our other representative, I just want to make sure I get her name correctly, Farhiyo Hassan, she was our Casco Bay High School representative, and she has now moved out of state with her family. So we're with Christina Donato, from Portland High School, and Saharla Farah. I said it completely wrong. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Saharla. So we had a wonderful lunch together, and the purpose of the lunch was really so we could sit down together and hear what their perspectives are, and if they had any suggestions on how we could improve their positions as student representatives. And in the meantime, I did a little bit of research just to discover how these positions came about, and it was back in 1972 that the Maine, I'm going to put my glasses on, Maine State Department of Education encouraged local school boards to consider roles for students on school boards. And it wasn't until 2004 that the Portland Board of Education approved to have student representatives. So we have had student representatives since 2004. Around the country, not all boards have student representatives, so we're very fortunate that we have ours, and we continue to continue the representation there. In our policy, it reads that the Portland Board of Education endorses the concept of student access to the district decision-making process to provide advice and opinions on matters of common interest and to enhance communication and a sense of community within the Portland Public Schools. So again, we wanted to hear their views and see what we could possibly do to improve those positions. We met last Tuesday, the day before first day of school, and the purpose, and so I'm just going to go through the list of some of the suggestions that were their suggestions, board member suggestions, and superintendent suggestions, and also let you know what actions will be following from each of those suggestions. One of the suggestions was to add back the board mentors. And this was when we used to have a mentor, a board member would represent or to help serve as a liaison between the board work and a student. So we'll be adding those back. The action will be, our Chair Trevorrow has said, yes, this will be reinstated. Suggestion number 2, possibly lengthen the student rep's terms to 2 years to allow for students to have a longer representation to better understand the board work and to help provide guidance to new student representatives, possibly stagger their years. And the action on this is really going to be driven more by superintendent and staff in determining how best to move this forward for a full board discussion and review and decision possibly. So stay tuned on this one. This is not going to change yet. Suggestion 3, to ensure there is an orientation for new representatives that includes existing representatives. And the action there is there has been past orientations to determine how to work with our students and how the students can engage more with the board. And so point there was that to be helpful if we had past student representatives meeting with new representatives during the orientation. Suggestion 3, we're on to suggestion 4. The chair and the superintendent and other board members would start meeting once a month again, as done in previous years, with the student reps as an opportunity to discuss any topics of interest by the students. And the action there is the superintendent and chair have discussed this and are interested in continuing that work, or continuing those meetings. Starting and continuing those meetings. Suggestion 5, move the representative to sit with the board members at our business meetings. So this is why we have our 2 representatives seated here. And in the future, when we add the two additional student reps, we will find space, hopefully among the dais here, to add all of our student reps to be with the board members so that they can feel more involved, as well as if they have any questions during our meetings, can discuss those with board members. Suggestion 6, to have the chair ask the representatives specifically if they have any comments during the business meetings. Again, because of where they were seated in the back and often not visible, as well as not asked to participate often, the chair has agreed that she will turn to the students specifically and say, students, would you have anything to add or any comments? And that will begin tonight. Suggestion 7, students can help with the comprehensive plan rollout. Our action, the superintendent has discussed with Ms. Grace Valenzuela and have already begun thinking of ideas of how our student representatives could assist in our comprehensive plan rollout in the district and within their own high schools. And suggestion 8, to have the student representatives hold student sessions within their own high schools to listen to other students and to bring forward to the board any discussions, any topics that were discussed. The action there is the superintendent and chair have agreed that they will just talk with our student representatives as well as the principals and staff of those schools to discuss the best way moving forward with those. So that is the conclusion of a very productive lunch that we had with our students, and I think that as we all, I'm sure, do believe it's a huge asset to have our students here with us, and we are proud of the ones that we have, as well as all of our students in the district, but we would love to give our students more of a voice here. So thank you.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody who attended that meeting as well. It sounds like it was very productive. Do the students have anything to add regarding that meeting? Any reflections?
I think basically those are her notes, but our reflections, but I really appreciate the opportunity to be taken out, but also out of a very formal setting and in a more comfortable space that we can actually stay, even though I am comfortable in this space, of course, but you know what I mean, less formal and just a one-on-one or 4-on, whatever, you know what I mean, and just have the capability to talk to other board members and the superintendent. I'm just appreciative for that.
Great. Thank you. So the other, Ms. Seeliger.
Thanks, Marnie, for that meeting and the update on that. I hope that, do representatives on committee meetings still? Okay.
We do, yes.
That's great. Oh, and maybe we can work together with policy and help when we start to get our committee meetings together with policy and public relations about getting students involved with that as well. Thank you.
Ms. Morioni.
Actually, thank you, Ms. Seeliger. That was discussed because we do have them as on all of our committees, and it was discussed that oftentimes they are not included in those discussions, even when meetings are changed. Or so, I think it's behooves us as board members to remember that our students are part of those committees and to include them in all information that's going out, as well as to include them in the discussions during those committee meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. The other thing I wanted to report tonight is on the MSMA Fall Conference, which is coming up. We are asking for 2 board members to volunteer to serve as delegate and alternate to the MSMA Fall Conference. The conference will be on Thursday, October 26th in Augusta. The delegate and the alternate, if the delegate is unable to attend, will represent the board at the delegate assembly scheduled for 2:00 p.m. on that date. The delegate assembly adopts MSBA positions on important issues for the year, and it is important that our voice as the largest and most diverse school district in the state be represented at that meeting. The delegate should plan to attend the MSMA conference on that date. Board members who are interested in serving in this capacity should let the superintendent know before September 14th, as the selection will be on the agenda on September 19th. We have not yet received resolutions that will be adopted. We expect that when we do, we'll bring those to the full board for a vote on which position our representative will take. And I think most of us remember we've done this in previous years. So again, if you're interested in serving in that capacity, that would be great. Please let Superintendent Botana know. And that concludes the report of the chair. Moving into report of the students, we have Ms. Donata from Portland High.
Hi, I'm Christina. I'm the school board rep from Portland High, and we started off the school year pretty good, and we have a few lovely additions to Portland High School from the class of 2017, and our freshman class has joined us with a lot of energy. The gifts from last year's seniors was a vibrant blue bench, which was placed in our atrium by the gym, and it has Portland High School engraved into it. And we also received a mini bulldog statue, which I believe is in the main office. Our freshmen got the first day to themselves, where the sophomores, juniors, and seniors left after approximately 10 o'clock. And they got like a quick orientation, and they got to go through both of their schedules for blue and white days to get a feel of the school and how their schedule would work. And their elections are coming up soon, so they'll have like vice president, president, secretary, and treasurer and stuff like that, which will be facilitated and held by the student council. Also, there are minor adjustments to our schedule. We got 10 more minutes for breakfast in between first and second block, which is great, and everyone was excited for. The sophomores and juniors have got the hang of their years, and they are doing great academically and physically on the athletic teams. If you guys want to go to the games, feel free to. Football's doing pretty great after a tough loss, but they'll bounce back. Juniors are also going to have a tough year with SATs coming up and a bunch of testing and pushing themselves into thinking about a career as long as the seniors. The senior class has a nice start to their year as well. We're going to be having a retreat in a couple weeks to kind of get a chance to like connect with other students in our class, which some of the students have discussed with the principal as a struggle of theirs, that they haven't got the chance to kind of like participate with other classmates in different events and try to get to know everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Donata. Moving into report of the superintendent.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I also want to echo Ms. Morione's report and say how grateful I was to Ms. Morione and Mr. Rodriguez for taking the initiative to get that meeting scheduled. One minor correction around the committee meetings is that they do currently get their committee meetings and they get notices in the same way that the board does. I think what we discussed was also doing some specific outreach to them to remind them of the meetings, and we talked about staff that staff the committees taking that particular initiative to make sure that they get there, because there are, they're getting them whether they're on that committee or not on that committee, and so I think it was just trying to be more focused in our outreach to the students regarding the committees that they're members of. But I thought it was outstanding. As usual, I was incredibly impressed with the thoughtfulness and the presence of the students, and so really appreciated hearing from them, and I think that they had excellent suggestions. Clearly, they're very committed to the work that they're doing on the board, and this was a great opportunity for us to sort of practice what we preach around student engagement. Otherwise, I'm happy to report that the school year is off to a great start. Today was the first day of school for our kindergarten and pre-kindergarten students, including the son of Malia Nally, who arrived wiping tears as her youngest student went off to kindergarten for the first time today. They joined the nearly 7,000 Portland Public School students who are looking to make the 2017-2018 school year the best ever. Last week, all of our schools hosted events and activities to welcome our students and families back to school. I had the opportunity to drop in on many of these events, as did members of the cabinet, and we were incredibly impressed with the energy and enthusiasm that we witnessed. Whether it was freshman orientation, whether it was a community meal or ice cream or watermelon in the park, it was rewarding to see our staff, families, and students getting reacquainted with each other as they prepared for the year ahead. I was just taken by how many hugs I saw people give and get. It was amazing. Getting ready for the school year is no easy task. All summer, our principals and assistant principals worked hard to get staffed up, scheduled, and with all the materials and supplies that they would need to start the school year right. Our teachers worked hard to prepare themselves. As early as the first week of summer vacation, teachers have been coming into school to prepare their classrooms. Many of them have also participated in professional development and learning activities that have taught them new skills and giving them exciting ideas with which to engage their students in learning. Our custodial and maintenance workers endeavored all summer to complete capital projects as well as give our buildings a good scrubbing so that they would look their best for the start of the school year. I know I'm going to leave out other key contributors, and I want to thank all of the Portland Public Schools family for working as a team to prepare for the start of our school year. Portland is an amazing community, and we had many instances of the community coming together to support our students in need as they started the school year. The City of Portland once again led the way with a donation of backpacks and school supplies for almost 300 students. I would like to especially thank Cheryl Brewster and the Portland Police Department for spearheading this effort. Many community organizations such as Local 740 IAFF, the District Attorney's Office, Walgreens, Machias Bank, and the Portland Downtown District joined with the police and fire departments, the city's Department of Parks and Rec, and other city departments to make this possible. We also had donations from Cisco, one of our food service vendors, and multiple other community organizations to make sure that our students in need have the supplies that they need to enter the school year prepared to learn. Ocean Avenue Elementary School has been recognized as a Let's Go 5210 site. Let's Go works with schools to support health behaviors, including environmental and policy strategies that support healthy eating and active lifestyles. Additionally, this year, under the direction of Food Service Director Jane McLucas and her team, 10 other Portland public schools were recognized by Let's Go for cafeteria practices that reduce waste, increase participation, and nudge students to make healthier choices. The schools are Deering High School, East End Community School, Hall School, Lyseth Elementary School, Reiki Community School, Lincoln Middle School, Longfellow School, Ocean Avenue, of course, Presumscott, and Riverton. Thank you to Jane, her team, and all of the school leaders and teachers that have actively worked to earn this recognition for our schools. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Moving into report of the secretary. Consideration and action to approve the meeting minutes of August 15th. Is there a motion? Ms. Thompson, seconded by Ms. Davis. Are there any questions on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, is there any public comment on the meeting minutes? Seeing none, is there any board discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the meeting minutes of August 1st, 2017, please indicate. It's unanimous with the students voting in the affirmative. And we do not have report of the committees tonight. I will announce the upcoming dates. Finance and Personnel is meeting on Tuesday, September 12th at the Portland District offices. Also on September 12th at 7:30 is Operations. Sorry, Finance was at 6 o'clock. Operations is at 7:30. Curriculum is meeting Tuesday, September 26th at 6 o'clock at Portland District offices. And Policy and Public Affairs is meeting September 26th at 6 o'clock, also in district offices. Ms. Thompson.
I don't think on that calendar currently is September 12th at 5. The Appointments Committee is meeting, myself, Mr. Rodriguez, and Mr. Eater with the superintendent to talk about the actually in March, the resolution that the board passed around the boundaries of Ocean Avenue, Hall, and East End. And so that meeting will be happening at Central Office on September 12th at 5 p.m. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Okay, and I understand tonight we have had a request to take public comment out of order. I understand there may be some members of the public who have to leave early, and we wanted to take this opportunity to ask any members of the public who wanted to comment on any items not on this evening's agenda to please approach the podium.
Well, I was...
State your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes.
Turn it on, the base. How's that? Dave Elowich, 81 Roaring Brook Road in Portland. Excuse me. I was asked here to come here today because I found out that Channel 3 has had some budget cuts, WPPS. I'm here in sort of 2 ways. First, I assist in filming for the Portland High School football team. And secondly, I'm a wrestling coach at Portland High School. You know that I was here in a couple of meetings ago. And really what I want to bring out of this is that the importance to the kids, when we've hosted team dinners at our house, they discuss the fact that they watch these programs on TV. And I know that maybe cutting the budget doesn't seem like a lot of money, and it's a part-time job or whatever it might be. But when you cut stuff like that and you sort of diminish the importance of it in the community, I think that has an effect. And I think it'll have an effect on the kids who actually enjoy watching themselves wrestle on TV. It allows for parents to be able to support their kids who can't make it to their kids' games or their kids' programs. And I think that letting it go and letting it die a slow death through budget cuts is a disservice to the community. I think it's very important that we keep that on TV. We allow the kids to have that luxury of having, and for the amount of money we're talking about, and I'm not sure all the numbers, I was told 35,000 was a number. In a budget the size of Portland, I think there should be a way to find such an important avenue for the kids to keep that and to not find budget cuts to a program that benefits the children directly. And it benefits the school. It gives people a chance outside the parents to able to watch football games, basketball games, hopefully a wrestling meet every now and then. I really think that that should be considered when you guys make budget cuts to WPPS.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, I will close the public comment. And we'll move into consent items. Would the superintendent please read the items into consent?
Yes, Madam Chair. Portland Public Schools received conference room and office furniture from the Portland Education Foundation that was donated to them by Unum. And Portland High School received an AV lectern and 83 tablet armchairs for the tiered lecture hall on the 3rd floor from Bates College of Lewiston. So thank you to both Unum, the Portland Education Foundation, and Bates College for their contributions.
And there is no old business this evening. Moving into new business, we have a first read to approve the vote entitled Vote to Request that the City Council approve to validate a supplemental 2017-2018 school budget be approved in form presented to this meeting, and that an attested copy of said vote be included with the minutes of this meeting. And it is a first read, so we don't have discussion on that. And so we are into personnel. Consideration and action to approve the personnel items listed. Is there a motion? Ms. Davis, seconded by Mr. Rodriguez. Will the superintendent speak to the motion?
Yes, Madam Chair. We have a slate of probationary teachers that we're bringing to you. These are all positions that were in the budget. They are filling either new positions that have been opened programmatically or replacing openings when staff have retired or left. Again, this is a very impressive list of candidates, and I've had the opportunity to meet many of them as I've gone around to the schools over the last few days, and I can assure you that we are lucky to have them.
Thank you. Are there any questions on the motion? Ms. Morioni.
Superintendent, did you say these are already allocated in the budget? These were, okay, thank you. And one other question. With the new Spanish immersion teacher, is she one that we've had before, or we're replacing one that we have? Or is this growing our Spanish immersion?
Yeah, so we're growing the Spanish immersion. I'm not 100% sure if the person that we're hiring today is, do you know which grade she's going into? So I don't know if she would be the new person going into 3rd grade, although I believe that this is somebody who's actually in 1st grade, so she might be replacing somebody that left, is my guess. But we have added a position this year as it moved up to 3rd grade.
Any other questions? Seeing none, where this is a personnel item, there is no public comment. Is there any board discussion? Seeing none, I will call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the personnel items listed, please indicate. And it's unanimous. And that brings us to board focus on educational issues. We have an organizational update.
So we're all going to come around to the front. Just enter? Yeah. No password? Perfect. So today we wanted to update you on the organizational structure and really link it to the work that we're doing around the comprehensive plan now known as the Portland Public Schools Promise. And at the end of our presentation today, I'm going to ask Grace to share a little bit more about the public communications. As you'll recall, we shared a little bit at the last meeting, and now we've got some additional goodies that we'd like for you to see on the communications front. But what we really wanted to do today was give you an opportunity to formally meet members of my cabinet and understand our organizational structure. And particularly provide an overview of where key work that is part of our comprehensive plan implementation, where it lives within the organization. You, at your desk, should have a copy of the 4-page comprehensive plan. Oops. Sorry, we will get that to you now. And so that is, if you recall, the original comprehensive plan was an extensive document that had all of our metrics and all of our strategies in there. This is that same document, sort of spruced up, the language made more effective, and but it still includes that level of detail around the goals, the activities, the strategies that we are going to be pursuing to achieve those goals, and how we'll measure our success. So just as a reminder, the goals in the plan are what you endorsed, and those are for the long haul. That is our 5-year trajectory, the things that we want to hold ourselves accountable to. The strategies are more flexible. Those are based on the work that we did last year with you, with members of the school district faculty. Those were the things that we set out to pursue as we did our work. Some of them we've only moved so far in. Others we've decided to press pause as we got our budget straight to be able to do that. But many of those strategies are currently moving forward, and what we're going to be doing during our presentation today is to highlight some of that work and to highlight it in the voices of the people that have responsibility for advancing it. Some things, such as our equity audits or personalized success plans, are things that are just in the formation level, so you won't hear reports on those today. And other things such as strengthening adult education or creating career pathways for our staff is the work that we do every day. It's ongoing work for the district, and it's the responsibility of different people within the organization. So we're not going to really focus in on the specifics of the everyday work today, but I am going to review in a minute our organizational chart so that you see where important things that won't be highlighted today in the presentations that the cabinet makes, but you will see where those reside within the organization. So things such as transportation or specialized services are critical parts of the work that the district does, and so those continue to be, even though they won't be tied into our presentation today because we're focusing in on the comprehensive plan and its implementation. So it's not to minimize that work, only that that's not what we're focusing in on today. So this here is our organizational structure, and so I want to direct your attention to a couple of things. So that first tier that you see under the line that's the cabinet. So the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, the Assistant Superintendent for Building Management, our Communications and Community Partnerships, Executive Director, that's Grace, Executive Director for Human Resources, and Executive Director of Budget and Finance. The only sort of line that's been added to the organization is that communications and community partnerships. That is the only sort of new cabinet level position that was created as a result of this reorganization. Everybody else in that organization structure, those positions existed in the previous organization. The other thing that I will call your attention to is there is a sixth member of the cabinet, and that's our Assessment, Data, and Research Director. That's Angela Atkinson-Duenas, and you'll hear from Angela tonight. And again, that is because that role is critical to our being able to advance the work that we're proposing to do. So Angela brings a great deal of knowledge just based on her work, but also in terms of understanding all of the aspects of the organization and the data around it. And so that's why Angela, even though she's not a direct report to the superintendent, which the other 5 cabinet members are, is also a standing member of our cabinet. The third thing that I'll bring to your attention is that we have a line of directors of the support departments, and so that's food services, facilities, transportation, and IT, and those now report directly to me. As you know, during the budget, we eliminated an additional layer that was between those positions and the superintendent. And so those folks are now direct reports. They're not members of the cabinet. I meet with them separately as an operational team. And so that's the structure. And I think those are all the things that I really wanted to highlight in the organizational chart. Just to sort of point out what I had said earlier during the introduction, if you look and you see under the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, the Student Support Services, which is special education, health, and all of those other responsibilities, sits in the, as direct reports to the Assistant Superintendent for Teaching and Learning, our Chief Academic Officer, Malia Nally. And so that's no different from how it's been in the past. So just briefly on the why we're organized this way. So what we were trying to achieve was, again, really being able to focus on the key work of the district as represented by the comprehensive plan. So we wanted to create a team that had oversight and the ability to look into all aspects of the organization, and at the same time create a team that was empowered to have responsibility within those functional areas, and that was small enough that you could really have engaged involvement from all of the participants as we do our work. So the type of work that we do in the cabinet is really more strategic in nature. It's not functional and operational. It really is talking about the cross-cutting issues that we need to address in order to be able to advance our comprehensive plan. And that's, back to my earlier point about Angela. That's why Angela is a critical part of that team. And then just to sort of reground you on this is what we are committed to achieving. So it's having all of our students prepared and empowered for the next level of work, and that's how we are organizing the work around our achievement goal with the specific strategies that you're going to hear on that, our whole student work and the specific strategies on that, as well as equity and the work that we're doing in that area, undergirded by our people with those strategies. So the way that we're organizing the presentation, the cabinet members are going to talk about specific strategies under each of those areas for which they are responsible. I think you'll see just in the cadence of this that these responsibilities are cross-cutting. Even though one person is talking about it, there will be more than one person talking about strategies under whole student or under equity, because these are cross-functional across our cabinet structure. And in addition to the sort of the specific strategies in those areas, you'll also note that the foundation for all of this is also represented in the cabinet. So there are people, Jeannie's work around supporting the implementation at the school level, Alicia's work around making sure that we have the budget and the structures to be able to make budget decisions that support this are critical, as is obviously Angela's role, which I talked about earlier. So with that, and without further ado, I am going to turn it over to Malia Nally to begin the presentation with the achievement strategies. So, Malia? Okay. I was hoping you were back there somewhere.
I came. Hi. So our achievement goals. So I'm going to talk about 3 of the big priority focus areas under achievement for this year. So the first is around proficiency-based teaching and learning. You all know that this work has been ongoing for the past several years. And so the big idea this year is to focus our work around the true purpose of what proficiency-based learning is about, and to ensure that the moves that we make really maximize the advantages of this particular approach. We all know that initiatives can come and go, and the challenge with that is that we can approach new ideas with a more compliance-oriented mindset. Just do what we have to do to live it out, the new mandate, and we don't necessarily really anchor into the purpose. But in this case, we really believe in the big ideas that underlie proficiency-based learning. For example, using a growth mindset, ensuring that a diploma means a student has truly mastered a set of knowledge and skill that we believe is essential for college and career success, and assuming that different students will get there or get to mastery in different ways and along different timelines. So we want to ensure that we all understand those big ideas and that our approach to implementation, now that we're into it, is really done in a purpose-driven way. So our main steps for this year will be to focus on, first, building out a really robust professional development and support structure that helps teachers build skill and have meaningful opportunities to reflect and collaborate around this work. So this includes things like coaching supports for each middle and high school, school-wide professional development sessions that we've got mapped out that have a real arc of learning across the course of the entire year, and other supports like that. And a second big area of focus this year is going to be building out a more comprehensive and cohesive long-term plan for making the transition K through 12. So for example, we'll be looking at things like where we want to be over time with providing students with varied ways to demonstrate their mastery of the graduation standards. And then we'll backward map the steps we need to take at the system, school, and individual teacher level to get where we want to be over time, so that we're on the same page with that. So there's lots more there, but those are some of the highlights about related to our focus on the proficiency-based teaching transition this year. Next, I want to talk a little bit about math. You're familiar with the fact that our math results are not where we want them to be. While our lower results match state and national trends, we do recognize a need to invest more deeply in our math instruction. To that end, we're focusing on what it will look like to be a great math teacher. What is that vision of excellence, if you will? We're going to be providing deep and ongoing professional development and individualized support to teachers around research-based best practices that we think will result in the kind of learning we want and expect from our students. Our middle schools will be supported by one coach, and most of our elementary schools have a part or full-time math coach, mostly funded via Title I. We're going to be bringing these math leaders together monthly to do professional development around building that real shared vision for great math teaching, building their actual skills as coaches. So really, recognizing that that's a skill set to coach your peers around changing their practice. And then thirdly, really coming together to collaborate around looking at artifacts from math classrooms, such as student work and videos of teaching. In addition, our middle schools will pick up on where they left off with making a decision around a common math program, and our coach will project manage the process and support us with making a decision that we believe will advance the type of math instruction we're aiming for and be fully aligned with and integrated into the proficiency work as well. The third area I want to highlight here in the achievement goal area is pre-K. As you all know, our community shares a belief that all children should have access to high-quality pre-K, and the district's been collaborating with Starting Strong and community providers to expand the number of seats available to our families, with a particular focus on ensuring there are high-quality options for families from low-income backgrounds. This year, we aim to take stock of where we are as a community in relation to our vision that was set forth many years ago. We want to be able to concretely answer questions such as, how close or far are we from all kids in Portland experiencing high-quality pre-K? Or how many more seats do we as a community need to create in order to realize our vision? Or what considerations need to be reflected in the strategy to ensure that our path toward access for all will work? For example, what is the expectation for before and after care that enables families to access pre-K? So in order to develop this analysis and the resulting strategy for the next several years out, we're partnering with Starting Strong and the USM Data Innovation Project around a multi-tiered data project that should result in a very clear strategy that will align the providers throughout the community and make clear to us as a school district what our role is in getting to where we want to be as a community holistically. So those are a few of the big areas of focus under achievement for this year. And let me just... and then I want to talk a little bit about the first priority area under our whole student goal, which is around social-emotional learning. So we know that there are many amazing practices happening across our schools in the realm of social-emotional learning. Our focus for this year is going to be on launching a true systems-wide effort to integrate social-emotional learning into teaching and learning across all schools and classrooms. So this is going to mean things like inventorying what we are doing and assessing what's working, developing common language, outcomes, and measures around this work, delivering district-wide professional development around why social-emotional learning is a core aspect of great teaching that results in students who are in fact prepared and empowered, and then supporting schools and teachers with how to integrate the practices that promote and strengthen social-emotional learning. And ultimately, we'll develop this year a long-range district-wide action plan that gets social-emotional learning fully embedded into our teaching across the district. So that's the first priority focus under this goal, and I'm going to pass it over to Grace to talk a little bit more about the next two.
Good evening. So in addition to promoting academic excellence and strengthening the emotional skills of our students, we also want to expand learning opportunities that provide them with a well-rounded education that includes art, music, wellness, civics, and world languages. Research has consistently demonstrated the value of spending time in enrichment activities and courses for developing broad sets of skills and interests that nurture attributes such as persistence, creativity, teamwork, and empathy. There is an African saying that goes, "It takes a village to raise a child." And we are fortunate here in the village of Portland with its rich community partners, with an array of different, numerous community partners. The Telling Room, Culture Clubs, Boys and Girls Club, Learning Works, Ripple Effect, Portland Squash are just a few of the various community organizations we partner with. And we will continue to build on our relationships with our numerous community partners who all share our interest, our passion, and our values in providing services to Portland's children and youth. We imagine the partnership to go two ways: for the partners to bring the community to our schools and the schools to the community. Ensuring meaningful connection to a caring adult for each student. All children and youth crave care and support from adults in their family and outside of the home. And these relationships are key developmental assets that research has shown to help young people avoid risky behaviors, develop resilience, and thrive on their paths to adulthood. For students, a positive connection to at least one school adult, whether a teacher, a counselor, a sports coach, or other school staff member, can have tremendous benefits that include reduced bullying, lower dropout rates, and improved social-emotional capacities. Student advisory crew at King and at Casco Bay High School, Wind Block at Deering High School, and Bulldog Block at Portland High Schools are examples of existing structures to ensure meaningful connections. And rather than leave these connections to chance, we want to be deliberate and focused in making sure that every student is known by at least one adult in school. The next goal is equity, and under equity we're focused on 2 bullets, and I'll speak about the first one, strengthening family partnership. And this is very familiar to you. BPS and its Board of Public Education recognize the important role parents, guardians, and families play in the education of their children. In March of this year, you approved a school and family partnership policy that clearly outlines the values and activities that the district needs to promote family engagement. The Portland Empowered Manifesto served as a guide in integrating critical values and essential components in the approved policy. An important step in implementing the policy that we have to do this fall is to establish a family partnership advisory committee that would provide input on key district initiatives and oversee implementation of the school and family partnership policy. We are currently also in process of putting together this committee. Another important action in the policy is communication with our parents about learning expectations. If you recall, we have developed and disseminated the pre-K to 5 learning expectations, and the learning expectations for grades 6 to 8 just arrived. And these are those guides, if you recall. So the plan is to disseminate them during the fall parent-teacher conferences at the middle level. And also, and this is an important tool for families. Plans are also underway for a parent academy, parent university structure to provide opportunities for parents, grandparents, guardians, and community to engage in the learning process, strengthen homeschool community partnerships, equip parents with the awareness and knowledge of community resources, and become effective advocates for their children. And I'm going to turn it over to Barb, who will talk about developing cultural competency.
Good evening. So I'm going to start by talking for a few minutes about developing cultural competency. It's in the equity goal, but it does affect our people. The idea here is to build awareness, understanding, and skills to be culturally responsive to all students, families, and staff so they feel understood, safe, and empowered at our schools. So what is cultural competence? Cultural competence is having an awareness of our own cultural identity and our views about differences, including the ability to identify privilege and counteract bias. It's about learning and building on the varying cultural and community norms of our students, their families, and our staff. It's the capability to understand, respect, and adapt behavior to cultural differences of diverse and non-dominant population groups. The term culture goes beyond race and ethnicity. It can refer to many other characteristics, such as behavior, language, communication styles, values, age, gender and gender identity, sexual identity, and so on and so forth. In practice, individuals and organizations can be culturally competent. Developing cultural competence is an evolving, dynamic process that takes time and occurs along a continuum. So, what is the work that we have begun in this area? We started last winter by doing some grant writing to support this work in collaboration with the Portland Education Foundation. We were awarded a $10,000 grant from the Samuel L. Cohen Foundation and a $3,500 grant from Bangor Savings Bank. That allowed us to launch the District Cultural Competency Initiative and develop a plan with a local partner to deliver the initial cultural competency training at our Administrators Leadership Retreat in early August of this year. Roughly 50 people completed a cultural competency assessment, and this provided baseline data on the district leadership's cultural competency orientation. We spent the day learning about the cultural competency continuum and what the district orientation means in terms of charting the course for ongoing professional development at the district level, at the building level, and at the individual level. We're also providing the opportunity for everyone who attended that day to meet one-on-one with the trainers and develop a personal growth plan for cultural competency. This is an opportunity for our management team to both lead and model this work. Our leadership team will continue to loop back to this work on an ongoing basis during our K-12 administrative meetings during the course of this year. More broadly, we're developing a comprehensive long-term plan to provide professional development with the goal of reaching every employee district-wide on this work. And finally, we want to conduct a district-wide review of our policies, practices, and structures to ensure that we are addressing barriers and any systemic inequities that exist. Okay, so on to the people goal. There are two areas of focus that I'm going to talk about in people. The first is increasing staff diversity. The idea here is that we want to attract, support, and retain talented and diverse staff. We know that our students want staff who look like them, who share their life experiences, and who can serve as mentors and role models. We know that the research says that students of color who are taught by a teacher of the same race or ethnicity perform better in school. Additionally, recent research indicates that all students benefit from increased teacher diversity. The work in this area began last spring as we started to build a diversity recruitment strategy. Jeannie Crocker and I, along with the steering committee, developed a grow your own model for teachers. I think most of you are familiar with the effort called Teach Portland that we piloted this summer in partnership with USM. The idea was to attract local people, meaning high school students, college students, and adults in the area who were interested in teaching as a profession and give them the opportunity to intern in a summer classroom and take an introductory course in education at USM. When we started, we hoped to have 15 to 20 participants. I received 70 letters of inquiry, and ultimately we had 43 participants in 38 summer classrooms across the district. We envision this to be a long-term project, and when we started, we did not anticipate having any hires this year. We have in fact hired one individual, we have 2 people in the pipeline, and 5 of the participants who were either hired full or part-time as AmeriCorps workers in our schools this year. Finally, in support of this work, we are also building on our partnerships and relationships with Portland Adult Ed, City of Portland, the Department of Labor's Workforce Solutions, and the Maine Diversity Hiring Coalition. The last area of focus is enhancing employee engagement. We want to clearly articulate our core values and the uniqueness of Portland schools' identity to attract new talent and strengthen our organizational culture. Elevating this work is intended to help with recruitment, engagement, and retention. We're launching this effort with the Portland Promise public relations campaign. The intentional effort to raise awareness about Portland schools' strengths creates an opportunity for our staff to make connections to and take pride in the work of Portland schools. Additionally, we're partnering with the New Teacher Project, TNTP, to use their surveys this year to develop baseline data on employee engagement. TNTP has administered teacher and staff surveys in over 1,500 schools across the country, and they have more than a decade of experience supporting districts to build strong school cultures and promote student learning. We look forward to implementing their survey tools and plan on administering the surveys to all staff shortly after the mid-year break. We anticipate receiving data and actionable feedback in late winter. Tracking our diversity work and monitoring our staff engagement are just a few of the examples of our intentional effort to be more deliberative and systematic in gathering and using data to inform our practices. So that is the perfect segue to shift to Angela, who is going to speak in more detail about how our work will be supported through her district-wide data and assessment efforts.
Thank you, Barb. So I'm going to just talk a little bit about how we're using evidence and data as a cross-cutting strategy to support all areas of the comprehensive plan. And I would say right now the work of the year is really orienting our current systems so that they align with the comprehensive plan. We obviously have collected data for a long time, and it was built to answer certain questions and to solve certain problems. And I think with the new comprehensive plan, it just requires us to kind of redesign some of those information systems so that we can have readily available information so that we can use it for two levers that we think are important here for support and for accountability. And, so what do we mean by support? And I would say we are talking about how we enable our district and our schools to use practices that are clearly based in evidence, and that also how we make sure that all our decision makers have access to good data to base their decisions on. So that's the area of support, and we also feel really strongly about using it also for accountability purposes. And we will do that through a process of kind of setting targets and reporting out on our progress to those. You've already seen the 4 really high-level targets that we've set. And you might notice that we've changed our language from from outcomes to targets, because we did get some feedback from you that targets was much clearer, and I certainly agree. So we have those high-level targets right now. We are in a process of setting some of the more detailed ones. What Grace handed out to you earlier is kind of the start of that work, and we do envision the curriculum committee being involved in that target setting. So that's upcoming for the year. And then I also, just kind of stepping back, think of this year as a particular one for strengthening our foundational data tools, systems, and processes for making our data meaningful and comprehensible so that they enable efficient and productive reflection and action planning. And one initiative that we have underway this year is the development of a data dashboard that will hopefully make the information that we need more accessible in a timely manner. So you may be hearing more about that across the year. But overall, I would say that our aim is to ensure that the stakeholders for all of these goals have access to reliable, valid, and meaningful information so that we can advance our work with kids and in schools. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeannie Crocker.
So I think I have the best role in the school system, definitely the best slide. And so in many ways, my role is especially straightforward and clearly illustrated, I think, through our comprehensive plan work. How does all that we have heard from my colleagues happen? It happens in our schools. Clearly. So all of the best laid plans, the work that you folks have all done to support the comprehensive plan, the work that my colleagues have done to bring the specifics forward, none of that means very much until it happens in our schools. So this is where our plans are operationalized. Our school leaders, with ongoing Implementation support, that's the key. We're not leaving them out there alone and say, here's the plan, go for it. Base their work on the district's comprehensive plan, obviously. At each school, as you know, goals are established with action steps calculated to reflect and ensure progress toward our targets that are included in the comprehensive plan. There's an ongoing two-way feedback loop in place to ensure open communication and intense support between the district office and every single one of our schools. We're a team. We're no longer a group of independent contractors. This is where it all comes together for our students, our staff, parents, and families. And the last part, the cleanup hitter, is Alicia, who's going to make sure we have what we need to do all of this.
So clearly I have the best slide. So in the event that you aren't quite sure what you're looking at, that is a picture of a building foundation. And my department, along with the operations departments, are part of the structure that supports the Portland Public Schools. As the foundation, we want to ensure that the processes and practices in place are efficient and effective. So in the same way that Angela spoke about setting up academic data systems, we're working now to implement a new financial operating system that will make our current manual paper-based processes automated through workflow. Document filing and retention will be electronic, which will make our budget, financial, and people data more widely available to department heads and their staff. Another key focus is to ensure that our resource allocation is aligned to our priorities. For the FY 2019 budget process, we're going to ask that all requests, changes, etc. in the budget are grounded in the Portland Promise and can be directly tied back to one or more of our 4 goals. This fall, I will be meeting one-on-one with building leaders to gain a better understanding of our school-specific needs. We want to ensure that we are making investments based on feedback from the schools and departments and that we're not making these decisions in a vacuum. And with that, I will turn it back over to Javier to close.
So thank you. That was great. I have an outstanding team. I feel privileged to work with them every day, and am extremely excited about our ability to move the work of the comprehensive plan forward. So we really just want to open it up to you for any questions that you might have and discussion for any of us. And then after you're done with questions around this presentation, then we are going to ask Grace to share a little bit more about the Portland Promise communications plan as it's evolved. So any questions about our presentation today?
Ms. Thompson.
Very impressive. Thank you. Exactly. I think what we need to hear and what I'd like to see. I have a question on the org chart. You have administrative support. Maybe it's because it's at the higher level with the executive assistant to yourself, but we've always had as well support for facilities in the CAO, which is now a different office. Do we still have support staff in the way of executive assistants for our assistant superintendents as well?
So we, as you know, had some cuts in our executive assistant staff at the central office. So this is a different organizational structure. We've pooled our secretarial support for all of those areas into a team made up of 4 people. And so those 4 people provide support to me, as well as the assistant superintendents and the executive director of community relations and partnerships. So Grace.
So there's no longer like an executive assistant for this one. They're all dispersing the work and working in conjunction with each other.
Right.
And
yes.
Okay, beautiful. And then I had a question about when you talked about the math, Malia, about middle school algebra. Is that still, when you talk about mathematics for middle school, is that still our goal? Okay. And then with regards to the guides that Grace mentioned, with regards to new ones, is that just a new print or is that new
Those are new.
Yeah.
They have not been distributed. They're newly developed. We produced and disseminated guides for pre-K to 5. Mm-hmm. The 6, 7, and 8 were developed, and they were just printed.
Okay, so can we get copies of all those?
Yes.
And I think, too, just for the viewing public as well as 2 new board members to come, can you talk a little bit about, with our partnering with our families, how those are translated into how many languages?
Oh, yes. We translate them in 8 or 9 languages. Okay. Acholi, Arabic, Khmer, French, Portuguese, Spanish, Somali, Vietnamese, so 8.
Great, thank you. And then there was mention about new teacher project. Can somebody talk a little bit more about that? I've never heard of new teacher project, so.
The New Teacher Project is a private organization. It's basically a consulting firm that works, nonprofit, based in New York City?
It's
and in Oregon.
National.
Yeah, yep. They work with schools all over the country doing all sorts of work. The 2 surveys, well, the one survey that we're really focused on is called Insights, and that is a teacher-specific classroom teacher survey that they have done nationally, and we will be doing that for culture and climate survey for our teachers, and then we'll be doing some separate surveys for our building administrators and other staff.
So their main focus is survey research work, market research, that type of thing?
Why don't you come up?
Yeah. It's really school improvement, so they work with urban districts around the country and do coaching at the system at the school level. So they started off with a real focus in terms of teacher recruitment, retention, and increasing the diversity. And then they have started to do some bigger work around aligning academics, professional development assessment, and curriculum. And then this is one of the core pieces of their work. Barb mentioned it's been going on for a decade. They did, in this research they've done around it, they have linked it to student achievement outcomes. And so the questions that they've honed over time give you an indication of the kind of culture levers in a school, if you will, that are most likely to lead to higher student achievement. And higher teacher retention as well, actually.
If you have some more information like that you can provide to the board as well, I mean the PowerPoint as well as some information about that, I just would like to learn more about them. And then I have 2 last things. We talked about under evidence and data support and accountability, the targets of 92, 95, 95, 50. And we used to do like a side-by-side. And so like what we're starting at baseline. And so those are our targets, but what for the viewing public as well as others, what's the baseline that we're at, and we're trying to get to X target? Do you have baseline numbers?
I think you do. I think this is the baseline report right here. So this is where we're starting, and you'll see some of them do have kind of that we're establishing a new baseline because we haven't been collecting on data on that really systematically in some of those areas. But that is that information right there.
Okay, so the ones that you do have.
We don't have it for the people goal that we just discussed. That's one that we're coming up with a baseline with this first survey.
Or around equity, those are also will be established. Although, yeah, so we do have some guidelines from the state on that one too. So
I'm just wondering if we don't have them, and I love the fact of 92, 95, 95, and 50%, but how did we land at those numbers?
I can tell you something about that for those high level goals. At 92, we do have one of our high schools that's achieving like around that or close to that. So our other high schools are in the kind of mid to high 80s. So we use that as a guideline there for that information. And the other one that you wanted to look at, did you have a particular question about just the 95 around like students? What we looked at are some of our current survey data around some items that we know that we'll pay attention to with the Insight survey, and looked at where we are now around those. Those are usually in the high 80s. So we felt like that we could, in the next 5 years, 95 felt reasonable. Around the people for the staff, we looked at, again, we went back to the TNTP and looked at some of their what they use for evaluating staff engagement and what some of their indicators are, and so we followed that. But that one was, I think, the one where we have the least amount of data on is in that area. Under equity, we're taking a couple different approaches. We are working to establish some of our baselines in what I think of as opportunity gaps. So like enrollment in our AP courses, what does that look like? But then as far as achievement gap closing, we looked at what the state's proposal is, which actually just got approved for ESSA around their timeline for halving the achievement gap in Maine. So, and we just opted to follow those guidelines there.
So on the whole student, the students do a survey every year.
So we don't have...
So the information that was gathered from those surveys, I assume that's taken into consideration to see what, where they think there are strengths and weaknesses in the district as well, because they're on the front line. So we've incorporated that into...
Yes, but what I would say is that it's not systematically, so the surveys that we have right now are really at the high school level, and so we don't have necessarily something that does, some of the younger kids that could still do some surveys there. So it's based on what we have.
Yeah, and we do survey parents, and so there are ways that we can get to those, that particular level of engagement through what parents report out as well. So I think that this is work in progress, but when you look at the student surveys, we felt that, it's mid to high 80s, shooting for 95% is what we established as the baseline, sort of looking at the existing data. But again, as Angela pointed out, we don't have that data at the elementary level, so at that point we're looking at parent reports.
And I will certainly say, Sarah, that I would have loved to have kind of a richer set of data that was kind of clearly in the the current measures, the current surveys that we'll be using going forward. But that's part of what I'm talking about as far as orienting our data systems and our information gathering systems to a new strategic plan. And so I think over this year, some of that will be natural.
Well, I just had my last child just graduate from Casco, and I know that one of her concerns was that she and her peers would comment on things that they feel are working really well and things that are not so well in their schools. And I know that information then went to the principal, and the principal used it from there for the school-wide. You have access to that information, though. You can see where the students said exactly where they felt, because they're on the front line. I mean, it's one thing asking me, but then asking my child, completely different of what perspective, because she was living it. So I just want to make sure that we really look at it, because I think we've seen some good nuggets of that, and they're pretty brutal and honest. So and yay for the data dashboard.
Yeah, well,
Thank you.
Let's wait. I'll yay when it gets up there and running, actually. So, yeah.
Other questions? Ms. Morioni?
Comment is fine.
Yeah, either.
Sorry, should have been questions or comments.
Okay, thank you. First, I want to say, of the 9 years I've been on this board, I have never felt more confident in the administration, the superintendent, and its cabinet than I have tonight. I mean, things are articulate, things are planned in accordance to what we collectively as a board agreed upon, but also the staff has been involved in. So many layers, including our community members, our partners, all coming together, and I think in a very short order around a comprehensive plan that we've struggled for this, again, 9 years. And so I'm very, very pleased tonight. Thank you to all of you for all of your hard work. And like I said, I just have never felt more confident that we can move forward in a way much more smoothly and faster than we ever have. Thank you to all of you for your hard work. Because we just sit here once a week and get to say yay or nay on things. But so with that in mind, I made a few notes here around a board works more effectively and efficiently when we can be proactive and looking forward to the future. And you are coming to us to report on things. Now we have, the metrics, we have the targets that are going to be laid out for this year. We're trying to, and I can tell you're not having a whole long list, a laundry list of things to tackle. You're trying to keep it succinct because even those small bullets are big tasks. So I appreciate that. I appreciate not getting a whole long list and trying to, take on too much within the year. And so I encourage that, to take on what you can and not to overemphasize something for us, for our sake or for the community's sake, students' sake, that it can't be achieved. I think it's better to tick off things along the way that will be successes, and do a better job for us as a board and you as staff to call them successes. I'm encouraged by that. The other thing that I think our board struggles with oftentimes is getting in the weeds. We've talked about it year after year of how to ensure that we're not in the weeds, we feel comfortable with, again, superintendent's work, the cabinet's work. I feel like we're in a prime spot to now just say, you know what, go with it. I mean, this is to have somebody who's keeping an eye on our finances and making sure that there's a direct line correlating to how we are allocating these resources. And so I don't know, it's just feeling very, very different than it ever has before, and I appreciate that. So I think now the work is a board work we need to do ourselves around just letting go of some of that old baggage around feeling like, we have to hold the hands of our, district leadership or of our staff. I don't think that that's the case at all. I'm very much in awe of all of the work that you guys have already done, and I appreciate it. So thank you.
Clearly, comments like those are welcome. So thank you. Thank you very much for that. One thing that I failed to mention in my introduction is, sort of to this, the board work. As you know, we've said that over the course of the fall, we are going to be bringing specific pieces of what you heard today to the board for a more in-depth, and that'll be the subject of our focus on educational issues going forward. So the way that we've organized board meetings for the fall will be around each of the goals. So achievement, whole student equity, and people, and we will devote a meeting each month to 2 of those goals. And that will be an opportunity for you to hear more in depth about the work. The other thing that we've changed for the board meetings this year is we won't have the school success plan presentations because, again, we're sort of retooling our whole success plan process so that it's more aligned to what we're trying to do with comprehensive plan. And so that doesn't mean you won't be hearing from schools, because we will be bringing them to help and highlight what things like, Teach Portland or the sort of equity issues around AP enrollment and things along those lines, how that actually looks on the ground. So that's where you will have the opportunity to see how these things are actually also playing out in, as Jeannie said, in the place where it really matters, which is at the school level. So I just wanted to say that we don't want you off the hook, as in like, just let us do our thing. We actually do want you to, and I know that's not what you said, but I don't want you to think that that's what I read into it. I think we are very committed to having the board engaged and helping to give direction and helping to shape this, as well as, ultimately holding us accountable. I think when, Angela puts up the slide that says support and accountability isn't just sort of accountability for people in schools. It's accountability for me. It's accountability for our team to be able to deliver on those goals. So I think that that's, also a critical role that you play as the board.
Another thing about what was mentioned, I think it was Barbara talked about the professional development that you did with modeling, working around cultural competency, and then having their leadership model those behaviors. And I remember doing some research back around board modeling. I mean, when we are running well ourselves, we then can impact your work, of course, but then more importantly, I saw statistics that showed that even student achievement can be impacted and improve if board's modeling, well, and district leadership, of course. So I'm very encouraged by this, and like you said, accountability will certainly always be there. You know us, and you know that we will continue to ask questions and dig deep when needed. But I do want to say thank you again.
Thank you.
Any other? Mr. Rodriguez.
Yeah, so thank you guys again for the presentation. Like Ms. Thompson and Ms. Morani said, great work. Really excited to be part of that. In the section when we were talking about the equity goal, just a couple of questions that I wanted to hear a little bit more about. We talked about the Family Advisory Committee. Just wanted to know a little bit more about what that committee is going to be doing and how it's going to be put together. Who do we envision is going to be making up that committee? And also the Parent Academy. I don't know if we went into that. Maybe I missed it, but if we can hear more about that.
So all still in the planning stages. So in your in the school and family partnership policy, the membership of that committee is sort of like suggested. Appointed by the superintendent or a designee with representatives that could include parents, guardians, a board member, multilingual, multicultural representatives and families, school and district staff, community partners, students and alumni will, and the point is to, will be established to support, monitor, and report on the implementation of this policy. So that's the task of that advisory group. That's still going to be information, but these are the members of the advisory committee. And the university is still in planning stage.
Any other comments, questions? Student reps, anything?
You guys? You just use that one. Yeah.
So I had more of a question for it overall. Was this information used from that one day that we had like a reflection? All those students came in and we were supposed to name the positives, but we ended up talking about some negatives in our schools.
That was, we had along the way lots of different engagement opportunities. That was a student-specific opportunity that we had to sort of hear from students about the elements of the comprehensive plan and how to communicate about it. So yeah, that was definitely one of them. This is also, we've had lots of opportunities with teachers, and we had focus groups, I think, on that same day after you guys left, that we had teachers coming in for focus groups around this. So we've done a lot of that type of work to get to lay out the plan as it is. And again, and the other thing that I want to stress is that there are lots of things that we still need to do that we've not been able to tackle. Some of these things, as Barb talked about, are funded through grants that we've written and things along those lines. So there are lots of things that we still need to get off the ground that we've not gotten off the ground, but that are a part of that document in terms of the strategies that we've set out to do. So.
Okay. That's probably it. I just wanted to say I like how we're articulating in almost a simple way a goal for specifically our students, and how it almost challenges the idea of a lot of students falling between the cracks. And I feel like this approach will make it very easier on how we have individual learners. And I feel like kind of how Ms. Morgan was saying, what was I going with that? Darn, I lost my train of thought. But I guess the smaller viewpoints and points that we're making will make it very easier for students not only to be challenged, but also open enough to be able to succeed in ways that I feel like I'm a little envious for. Because I know it will still implement for me, but I still have time.
You still got time.
But I don't know.
We're not writing you off.
Yeah, I know. Thank you. But I don't know. I just feel like this approach is will be, I can't even speak. I don't know, I'm a little tired too, sorry.
but I don't know. I really like visually, as well as I just feel like in our community, it's very needed to not derail students. And I feel like this is very good for individualizing as well as being able to challenge us. So I'm excited. I don't know.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I would just say, I have nothing to add except to echo Ms. Morioni's comments about having great confidence in this team. I'm very impressed with this work. And, to see the way that the strategic plan is coming together as an institution and how everything is tied to it is, it's just great. So these updates really help us as a board too, to be able to go to the community and talk in depth about what our school is doing. And I think that's extremely helpful. So I look forward to the ongoing work.
Thank you. And again, I just want to, and I know that others have said this, but this is an amazing team of leaders. And, you should have seen this presentation when I thought about it. I hear them laughing in the back because they really pushed us to, as a team to come up with something that really represented the work that we're trying to do in a way that, obviously, you're responding to the way that I think we wanted it to come across. So, these guys are amazing, and I'm just thrilled that they are part of our team. So, and I can't wait for you to see this next piece, because we really, if we can ever get the PowerPoint up and running, the communications around the comprehensive plan around the Portland Promise is really coming along very nicely. And I think what you'll see today is extremely impressive. And I think, to Ms. Donato's point, this is, again, the result of, lots of input from lots of different people, from our students to you to our teachers, to really help shape the communications about the Portland Promise. And so I'm not going to say anything else. I'm going to turn it over to Grace. Oh, no, you do it.
So today was our school launch. So we started, we have a Portland Promise school tour is what we are calling it. And so we went to 2 schools today after school hours, to Deering High School and Hall School, and presented to them the video and all of these slides that I'm showing you right now. And there is the website, the microsite that will include stories about our alumni, will launch on September 15th. It will include a backstory. So the website will have the 3-minute video that I'm going to show you in a minute. And each individual alumni will have a 1-minute video, plus the backstory that Tesna Salewicz is writing, and for each of the alumni. Each of the goals are also going to be featured in the website and what we're doing to accomplish those goals. Postcards will be sent to, the target date for the postcard is September 15. It's still in process for printing. Again, UNUM, thank you generously supporting us for all the printing that we are doing, and then that's in the tens of thousands that we're mailing to Portland residents. There's also the light post flags that are already with the printer that will be hang here on Congress Street mid-September. The banner, unfortunately, that's scheduled for October is not going to be, somebody's already used that space for the next few weeks, so the banner that shows Portland Promise will be up in mid-October. And then we also have plans for posters on the Metrobus, and the bookmarks are for staff and students are done. I'm going to share that with you as well. And this one would be the formal community launch will be on October 5th, and that will be on the UNUM campus, 4:30 p.m. Here's what the postcard looks like. That's the front side, and it tells you the portlandschoolspromise.org as the website. And this is the back side of the postcard. We are able to include our core values and the circle. And that's what will hang in the light post. For that, and now I'm going to go back to show the video.
On the postcard, when people receive that, I was just thinking, like I got this other school today. But it's kind of like the now what? So you're sending out that postcard community-wide, and they're going to be like, great, but now what? Like what, other than engagement? How do they know, like, it says go to the website, but why, do they know why they're receiving it? You know, the why, like, why are we sending it to that family? Or why are we sending it, like, someone will say, okay, well, I got this in the mail, and how are we capturing them to bring them in? Because they may not understand why am I getting this.
It's supposed to, the story is really in the website, so we want to let them, to drive the audience to go to our website, to that portlandschoolspromise.org that has a lot more information about the promise, the priorities and the goals and the values.
And it's really to just, heighten awareness. I think, people, they don't think of their school district other than when they pay their taxes, and then they don't think of it particularly kindly. So we want to do something to put that in front of people in a positive way, tell them what our core values are, give them a connection to the school district that they may not have. We don't want them to do anything specifically. I mean, we're not asking them to write a check. We're not asking them to vote for any particular initiative. What we want them to know is that we're here. We want the imagery to evoke the type of experience that we want, that we believe that we provide to their children and to the community's children, and we want them to know what are the things that we are focused on, what do we stand for, and then where to go and get additional information.
Great, thank you. That explains it very well. I'm just wondering, too, with our elderly population, because that is the majority of Portland now, percentage-wise, websites, some are challenged to. Do we have another means in which you're thinking about that, Grace?
Yes, the video is going to be also running on Channel 3, so that's another place for people to see the video. So, one of the things that is interesting about this alumni, group of alumni, is that Portland Public Schools, we are the largest school district in Maine, but every individual talks about their experience with Portland Public Schools, about the personalized education that they got. And so it's heartwarming, and they talked a lot about our teachers and how they prepare them for life. So it works.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm supposed to put it here to put the mic.
Meet with Senator Mitchell here in Maine at one point, and one of his sayings that no one should be guaranteed success, but everyone should have an equal chance to succeed. And I feel like that was the embodiment of what Portland Public Schools is all about.
Portland Public Schools taught me to believe in my ability to affect change. So now I can encourage others to believe in themselves. I hope they continue to attract awesome teachers that encourage learning the way that my teachers did, encourage a sense of space and place the way that my teachers did.
I believe in public education. I believe we have to make it better. We have to invest more in it. The experience I had as a kid from elementary school to junior high to high school, it shaped who I am today, 110%.
I feel really fortunate for some of the resources I was able to utilize while at Portland Public Schools, like the access to new computers or after-school programs that helped you focus on subjects or things that you were more interested in.
Portland Public Schools gave me the confidence to be an empowered leader in our community today. The teachers at Portland Public Schools have very much molded me into being what I believe is a very strong, confident female.
Portland Public Schools taught me to challenge the norm, so now I can forge a path that's my own. It was a very supportive community where I had a lot of adult mentors that I could turn to if I wasn't feeling I was challenged enough, and they were able to kind of see what I needed to do and what path I needed to take, even if it was different than what most people were doing.
I felt that I had a support system by some of the teachers that I've gotten close with, and they are responsible for encouraging me and pushing me to do my best, not just at school, but what's outside of school as well.
I realized that, I am good at something, and, it just made me feel better about myself, and it made me motivated to apply to college.
The Portland Public Schools taught me to be resilient, so I could be the person that I knew I could be. It's not what you learn, it's the milieu in which you learn it that makes you strong, and that strength and courage helps you to be successful.
Portland Public Schools taught me important life lessons, so now I can deal with adversity in my life.
Portland Public Schools has taught me to be confident in myself, so that now I can be a good role model for others.
Portland Public Schools taught me engagement, so now I can engage others in the community.
Portland Public Schools gave me the energy to pursue my passions.
Portland Public Schools taught me two fundamental things: aim high and never, ever give up.
They're going to be begging you.
I don't think that's in the budget.
It's the screen is a little bit distorted, so it's a square instead of a wide screen. So just so you know, it looks better in a different kind of screen.
You did show already banners and all that. So yeah, we wanted to end it on that note and just share a little bit about where we are with the communications plan. And I think the video speaks for itself. It just is. I've watched it 3 times today, and I still get teary-eyed when I watch it. It's just an amazing testament to what the Portland Public Schools are, to the amazing work that our teachers and all of our team do day in and day out. And so I'm really proud of it, and I hope you are too. So.
Great, thank you for that. Okay, that brings us to public comment. Where it is before the hour of 10 o'clock p.m., we would open the microphone to anybody who would wish to address us on any item not on this evening's agenda. You can approach the mic. Please state your name and address, and you'll have 3 minutes to speak.
Thank you. My name is Steve Schwartz. I live Thank you. I hope I can yield a couple of minutes because of that. So, my name is Steve Schwartz, and I live at 150 Roaring Brook Road. I feel like I could have been one of the people that spoke on that video as well. In fact, that video is an excellent reason why Channel 3 is such an important part of our community. I don't mean to sound like a one-issue person. I've appeared before this board and actually as a member of this board. With respect to myriad issues, I've advocated for music programs and sports, certain academic programs and other things as well. But I do advocate in this particular instance for funding, continued and increased funding to fund back full-time positions for Tess and for Henry. I will tell you that I'm a taxpayer, and I don't have any more children in the schools, and they've been gone for a few years, but I have a deep, as I wrote to you, a deep affinity for the schools. I support them. I support paying taxes to support schools because I think, and my friends think, that a vibrant community needs a really good school system and including both education and co-curricular activities and a way to promote that. I'm concerned that, I think any of us would be concerned if somebody were to look at us and were to say, you're not really as valued as you could be with respect to what you do for a job or what you get paid. And I think that has happened with respect to Henry and Tess. Tess is a former government reporter for the Portland Press-Herald. She is working with this program, as you know. Henry coordinates volunteers. He is the editor. He is really the glue that keeps Channel 3 together. Volunteers can't do it alone. Quality suffers when hours are cut. In our particular instance, we know, for example, Deering's co-curricular activities, or at least sporting activities, will not be part of the Channel 3 programming by and large, unless I have the time or somebody else who volunteers has the time to go and do that. It's extremely necessary for Channel 3 to continue in our community. And I'm concerned that, Henry or anybody, you won't get the best quality people if you can't pay them what ends up being a pretty meager amount of money. And, when midnight strikes tonight, I will have been a member of this community for 57 years, including going to all of its schools. And we have, as you've said, tremendous administrators now. Some of the best things and work that I've ever seen. But we've had 6 administrators in 9 years. And I hope that administrators such as Mr. Patana stay, if I pronounce that right, and help to make our schools and community vibrant. But whether you do or you don't, we need to have Channel 3 be a vibrant part of our community. Channel 3 is your channel. Henry's up there now filming this so that the community could see the great presentation that you all had tonight. And so that that tape will be shown on Channel 3. Ms. Donato, hopefully you've seen your brother on that channel playing basketball and doing a great job a couple years ago. So I just ask you to please not be penny wise and pound foolish, to, as Mr. Patana said, to heighten awareness in the community. That's what the banners are going to do. That's what the postcards are going to do. That's what the video is going to do. And that's what Channel 3 does every single day. Whether it's sporting events, which are near and dear to me, because that's where I spend my thousands of hours of volunteer time, or whether it's graduations, whether it's talent shows, whether it's educational programming, biographical pieces, or myriad other things. And if this program that you're doing is really wonderful, Channel 3 can help and actually be enhanced and enhance the program. And other things can be done on Channel 3 as well. It is a great tool that Spectrum and every cable system, its predecessor, gives our community. Let's take advantage of it. Let's take a meager amount of money, which is I think about $35,000 or so, to get Tess and Henry back up to full time so that we can have more and decent programming on that channel. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Seeing none, I will close public comment and call for a motion to adjourn. Ms. Thompson, seconded by Ms. Davis. All those in favor? It's unanimous with the students in the affirmative. We are adjourned.